Welcome to Live Better Longer. I'm your host, Bill Borton. I have a special guest with me today, but before I introduce him, I want to explain to you why I have him on. You know, people may know that I'm in the insurance and financial services business, but I believe that all the money and protection in the world means nothing if you don't have your health. And so today, it's my pleasure to introduce Eric Stofman. Eric is a COPE certified health coach, a doctor of chiropractic, an author, a keynote speaker, and he doesn't have it on his bio, but he's also a go-giver, and we have that in common as well. So Eric, welcome.
Thank you very much, Bill.
Pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
So how can health coaching help baby boomers?
Well, I think that most of us are raised in a structure that will sound very familiar to everybody. And the structure that we're raised and we live our life in is called up one, down one. Parent-child, doctor-patient, teacher-student, boss-employee. And it's a very dependent structure. In that structure, the person on the top is always telling the person on the bottom what to do.
Gee, I've never experienced that.
Exactly, right? Whether it's school, whether it's take this test, and the student says, why do I need to take this test? And the teacher says, well, because it's in the curriculum. And somebody says, why is it in the curriculum? Well, it's because the school board put it in the curriculum.
You're talking about me. I drove my parents and teachers.
That's exactly the why. So in parent-child, right? Clean your room. Why? Because I said so, right? So I asked the parent, well, what do you want? And the parent goes, well, I want the room clean. And I say, okay, then clean the room. And the parent says, well, I don't really want the room clean. What I want is my child to take care of their stuff so we're not late for the bus in the morning, so they can find their homework, so they can take care of their things. So when we're stuck in an up one, down one, even doctor, patient, or boss employee, that structure is also oscillating. A person will do it for a while. The kid will clean their room for a while. And then they will not do it for a while. They'll comply and they'll defy. So even in healthcare, in doctor-patient, like in my office, if I recommend a certain care plan to a patient and they don't follow through, actually by law, I have to put in the patient file non-compliant patient, right? I told them what to do,
Right.
and if they don't do it, right, it's on them.
Right.
So that is stuck in up one, down one. So when we think of things like creating health or living better, longer, right? Living a longer, healthier life, that up one, down one works in treating disease. You have a strep throat, take this antibiotic, it'll go away, and the episode is over. But it doesn't work in creating health because a person will do it for a while and then they won't do it for a while.
Yeah. Well, health is not the absence of symptoms.
That's right. That's right. And that up one, down one is very much in the problem-solving structure. You have a leaky roof, we want to patch the hole in the roof, right? We don't think about creating a whole new roof which will withstand the next storm. We're just constantly patching the holes in the roof. It's oscillating. And sadly, in the diet culture, do you know what the percentage of people are who go on a diet only to gain it all back?
Practically all of them.
Yeah, it's like 85%,
I thought
right?
it was even higher than
It's
that.
about 85%. The same amount of people who pay off all their debts and open up a new credit card the very next day, right? Because they were trying to solve a problem versus creating health, right? So as a health coach, we try to flip up one, down one into a new structure. It's called reciprocal mentorship. The client can be intrinsically motivated. What does that mean? They know what they want and they know why they want it. They have aspirations and they have values. They know what they want and they know why they want it.
Well, that's assuming that they know these things.
Well,
You have to get them there.
That's
right?
exact, and that's the role of the health coach. I guess the highest calling of a health coach is not to fix problems, right? It's to create an environment where the person themselves can acquire intrinsic motivation. They can take aim, acquire intrinsic motivation, and then the health coach doesn't tell them what to do, doesn't tell them what they should, need, and have to do.
Well, shooting on people generally doesn't work too well.
That's exactly right. So as soon as a person says to themselves, I should eat a salad, but I'm going to eat the Big Mac. I need to go to the gym, but I'm going to watch the news instead.
Yeah, but do you do your shoulds? Do you do your needs?
That is if someone should, needs, and have tos, even in their own mind, we know that they're stuck in this up one, down one structure.
So those programs you've had since you were a kid that are running underneath the surface, kicking you in the shins every time you try to change.
It's the ultimate evidence that someone is going to be in an oscillating structure, that they will do it for a while and then they won't do it because they're in should, need, and have to, as opposed to I want to, as opposed to intrinsic motivation. So then the health coach shows up and is what's called autonomy supportive. What does autonomy mean? It means separate, right? I don't ride everybody else's roller coaster, right? I have my own roller coaster, right?
Yeah.
Everybody has a roller coaster, but I don't take responsibility for their creating health. I just help them create an environment where health is a priority to them, and then we can develop strategies together to create what they want rather than what I want.
Okay. So how do you go about doing that?
There is a very unique health assessment that begins, because you have to know what your current reality is,
Yeah,
right?
you have to have a baseline.
You have to have a
Sure.
baseline. It's like a GPS, right? You have to know where you're at in South Jersey terminology, right? You got to know where you're at, right? And then you have to know where you want to go. So, and there's a lot of very common, kind of tried and true, almost cliche strategies. One is developing what's called a SMART goal, right? Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-based, right? So I always give the opposite example. Bill, if you're my coach and I say, I want to be the starting linebacker for the Philadelphia Eagles next September, right? That was specific. It was measurable. And it was time-based.
Yeah, it wasn't realistic.
It was, well, if you were my coach, you would say, no, Eric, do you believe that's achievable and realistic for you? And I would have to authentically say, no.
Gotcha.
So
So we're going to go to a commercial break
You got
right
it.
now. When we come back, I want to hear more about goal setting.
Perfect.
This is Bill Borton with Live Better Longer. We'll be back in a moment after a word from our sponsors.
Join her.
Welcome back to Live Better Longer. I'm your host, Bill Borton. I'm here this week with my guest, Eric Stofman. So Eric, before the break, we talked about goal setting. What do you find that baby boomer clients of yours have? What are their biggest challenges, rather, around goal setting?
Got it. So there are 4 major pitfalls that we found. One of which we touched on in the last segment, that some people proclaim, well, I don't set goals. Well, I've never been good at goals and I don't, set goals. So first we have to have them understand that the framework is they have accomplished things in their life. I asked them, well, was there a time in your life that you haven't tied your shoes and now you can? Well, sure. So you've achieved that goal. Was there a time you didn't know how to drive? Sure. And then you learned how to. So whatever you feel is most important to you, where it matches up with your core values, a lot of people try to achieve goals that someone else has given them. Right?
They generally don't work too well.
They don't. It's extrinsic motivation, right? It's the carrot and the stick. So the first thing with goals is they have to own their goals. They have to take ownership and responsibility and accountability for their goals.
They have to believe that it's achievable, right?
Right, that's that SMART goal acronym.
And they have to see themselves having achieved that goal, feeling good.
Absolutely.
Right.
And Wayne Dyer always talked about assume the feelings of the wish fulfilled, right? So what will it be like if you get down this weight? Or what will life be like if you're off 2 of the 3 medications?
He also said you'll see it when you believe it.
That's right. That's exactly right. So it's always about thinking from the end, right? Beginning with the end in mind,
Right.
and then working your way backwards, right? So we're talking about developing the structure that people could achieve their goals, because one of my other favorite analogies from Covey is, have you ever climbed to the top rung of the ladder only to realize your ladder was leaning against the
wrong
wall?
building,
That's
yes.
exactly right. So people can do the right, let me get this right, they can be doing things right, but they're not doing the right things. So here are the 4 pitfalls that we found when boomers are trying to create health in their life, or really any generation. Number 1, they try to do it alone, right? They want to be Lone Ranger, Han Solo, and they could use willpower and they could just fight through it. And
I don't want to pay for this.
that's right.
I'll invest a lot in a car, or stereo system, but not in me, right?
That's right.
And,
That's right.
And I don't want to be vulnerable. I don't want somebody knowing that I'm not in terrific shape.
Correct, correct. So that's that accountability piece. And I think that's if they can come to the understanding that as a health coach, I'm not judging them, right? And I'm not waving my finger at them, telling them what they should do. So if they can partner in this reciprocal mentorship where I can learn from them and they can learn from me, all of that kind of barrier that goes up of wanting to only do it alone goes away.
You're creating that give and take, that energy exchange that we talked about, which is the fifth principle from the Go-Giver.
That's right. There's that giving and receiving,
Right.
and staying open to both, and to always staying, and that's that reciprocal mentorship. So the second thing is that people try to create health in their life, but they don't have a set system, right? Because people go off path, right? In the financial world, in life, life happens. You lose your way. But if you don't have a set system to find your way back to, kind of like breadcrumbs along the trail with Hansel and Gretel. So what we do, I partnered up with this medical doctor, Wayne Scott Anderson, who was the 10th board certified critical care physician in the whole country. And after 20 years in the ICU, he realized he never helped anybody get healthy. He saved their lives. But so he left medicine back in the year 2000, give or take, and wrote a series of books called The Habits of Health. So if we have a baby boomer, anybody set a goal, that's a SMART goal, then we give them and they know that they're in a safe environment, right? Because that's first, right? You got to know you're safe. Then we give them this system called the Habits of Health, that they're not dependent on me to teach them what to do, but it's a self-study. They can learn it themselves.
At their own pace.
At their own pace, in accordance with their own goals and their own values. And then the third part is we put them in a community. And community has never been easier to create than it is in 2018. We have almost 500 people in our Facebook group. It's a secret Facebook group called the Healthy Habits group on Facebook. We do live workshops in my office. We do Zoom, live video calls all the time.
Sure.
Because a lot of people are in an environment where their home and their work are not supporting their health goals. Right? There may be working environment where people bring donuts every day, right? Or they're just not in an environment that supports it.
Or they're sitting all day long.
Or structurally, right? The structure of their daily routine is counterproductive to what they say they want, right? So we put them in this virtual and live community. And the fourth thing is, there's probably only two things that could move people towards being healthier, and that's not smoking, and that's moving towards a healthier weight. So we actually provide them what to eat to actually help them balance carbs and proteins and have them fuel their body every 3 hours, which is really the first habit of health. Can you fuel your body every 3 hours and keep it balanced, carbs and proteins? So those are the 4 ways.
That's great. Well, I'm seeing more and more about plant-based diets being the key to a long life and a healthy life. I'm seeing more and more when you go to the supermarkets that more and more aisles full of healthy stuff and organics. So people are starting to get the message. And some people are ready to take the plunge, and other people are doing what, in that movie, What About Bob with Bill Murray? Baby steps.
Baby steps.
I'm doing the work,
Correct. Baby
So
steps.
but it sounds like your program will help people move forward at whatever pace they want.
Correct.
And you're simply there helping them to make the wise choices in a non-threatening way.
Correct.
Well,
Yep.
That's terrific.
Thank you.
So how many folks have you worked with so far?
Well, we started it in my office when I partnered up with Wayne Anderson. Now it'll be 10 years in April.
Really?
A patient of mine actually became my health coach. And for me, I lost my 30 pounds, right? So
I remember there used to be more of you.
there are some pictures floating around of my before. I went to Weight Watchers when I was 9. I graduated high school, I weighed 250.
Oh my.
And I was in practice, not the highest version of myself. So I actually needed a patient to show me what creating health was. And I think we put in our
about
office.
the student and the teacher?
That's exactly right, right? That's exactly, and you got to just get authentically humble, right? Authentically humble. And we put it in the office. I think we're down almost 3,000 pounds in the last 10 years.
Wow.
And people have gotten off their medication. And so serving as a health coach has become a major pillar in the office, but really nationally. We have clients and coaches all over the country.
You mentioned getting off medication. so many people are too busy to take responsibility for their own health, and so they get a symptom and they go to the doctor, and the doctor gives them a pill and says, oh, by the way, you're going to have to take this for the rest of your life. There's something that's not right about that.
I'll let you say it.
It's kind of like,
That's right.
let's find the cause of the symptom, and let's see what it is that we can do differently. So,
It's in the culture. It's in the culture. It's advertised on TV. The medical doctors have fewer and fewer minutes to spend with a patient and have that
it
conversation.
used to be ask your doctor. Now I see it's tell your doctor. So
It's bizarre.
anyway, we're going to go to another commercial break right now for a word from our sponsors. We'll be back in another minute with more from my guest, Eric Stofman.
And together,
Welcome back to Live Better Longer. I'm Bill Borton here with Eric Stofman. So Eric, if people are interested in learning about health coaching, how can they reach you? How can they get in touch?
Very simple website to go to, which would be EMS Health Coach, my initials, Eric Michael Stofman. So it's emshealthcoach.com.
There's a contact page there.
There's a contact page there. And simply Facebook would be just connect with me on Facebook or LinkedIn or any of the social media platforms. Facebook is probably the best relational one that I found to connect with people. Or they could find me at my office in Cherry Hill. But the websites would probably be the best one.
Good. Now, in the introduction, I mentioned that you're an author. You've written a couple of books. You want to tell me about that?
I have. I think it's now 10 years ago, the first book came out and published by a company out of Philadelphia called Ex Libris. And that's called You Are Not Your Diagnosis.
That's a catchy title.
It is. And it begs a question, if you're not your diagnosis, then what are you, right? So I framed that book really as a tribute to my dad, who passed away about 15 years ago. And it came out of a conversation that I was having with him when he was given a diagnosis. And my response to him at that time was, Dad, you are not your diagnosis. And that turned into my eulogy for him at the time. It turned into the introduction of the book, and that really opened up a lot of conversations. And the latest one, much more about framing what we just talked about in health coaching. And the second book is called Willpower versus the Power of Willingness. And willpower really speaks to that I want to just do it alone, and willpower seems to be lose, right? If this is a chocolate cake sitting in front of us and I use willpower not to eat it, well, I feel deprived, so I lost. And if I'm using willpower not to eat the chocolate cake and I eat the chocolate cake, well, then willpower didn't work and I lost.
And I feel guilty.
And and that's all up one, down one.
Yep.
Shame, guilt, embarrassment, upset, judgment, those are all in that up one, down one structure, right? Lose, lose. Where willingness is much more about what we talked about. What do you want? Why do you want it? And that's the third question now. What are you willing to do? What action steps are you willing to do to get what you say you want for the reasons you say you want it? So willingness is much more powerful than trying to use willpower. So that's
Excellent point.
Thank you.
So we talked a little bit before the show about some of the larger, more societal issues that health coaching can help with, either individually or in groups, and then hopefully beyond that. One of which is obesity, and the other is the opioid crisis. So what can you share with our viewers about those issues?
It is. It's really like one epidemic rolling into the next, right? And one of my mentors taught me that inflammation is the mother and father of all diseases, right? So whether it's being out of balance in your proteins and carbs and being in fat storage year after year, even if it's 5 pounds a year for 10 years, that's 50 pounds, right? Well, that extra weight or the smoking or the stressful environment all causes inflammation. Inflammation is picked up by the brain as pain. So our society is constantly trying to chase, how do I get rid of this pain that I'm in? Whether it's the chocolate cake, whether it's the cigarette, whether it's the alcohol, or whether now it's the opioids, which over the last 10 years, I'd love to say that they didn't know that this was going to happen, but I'm not sure that they didn't know that this was going to happen.
I think you could pretty much
Yeah,
know that they did.
They did.
Yeah.
It just, those medications work so darn well that people want to chase that feeling. It's like heroin. Heroin feels great the first time. And then the addict is always chasing that initial feeling. And opioids work on the brain the same way heroin does. And you don't know if you're going to be the one that gets addicted. Because some would say, well, Eric, millions of people took it and they're not addicted. That's right. But there may be some genetic predisposition or behavioral. You don't know if you're going to be the one that's going to be addicted.
Well, it depends too whether you took it to recover from surgery or an accident, or whether you're taking it to try and dull the pain.
And it starts in a virtuous way, right? Nobody got the prescription in an evil, bad way. They got their first prescription because the doctor was caring for them, right? But then there was a physiological ramification to taking those medications and the effect that it had on the brain receptors. And so obesity, the sedentary lifestyle, the very technology addicted lifestyle where everything is done for us. We don't have to get up and even change the channel on the TV anymore, right? We could just order everything from our phone. Sedentary, smoking, obesity, opioids, it's all one thing. It's all one thing, and it's stuck in this structure of up one, down one.
So, Eric, I want to tell you I've really enjoyed having you on the show this week. I think our viewers have gotten a lot of great information. I hope a number of them will reach out to you.
Thank you.
And I want to again just thank you very much for being on Live Better Longer. I'm your host, Bill Borton. I was here this week with Eric Stofman. You can reach him at emshealthcoach.com. And until next Tuesday at 11, I'll see you then at RBN TV. Bill Borton, Live Better Longer. Thank you.